today. They say it's peace, but the pockets still cry. Yes, the leaders are smiling, the streets are complaining, and the price of bread just flew away. Hey, wake up, Zimbabwe.
Good morning, Zimbabwe, and welcome to another edition of Zimwaves TV Morning, where politics feels like theater, tragedy doubles as comedy, and the country somehow keeps spinning on vibes, prayer, and fuel bought in teaspoons. The big story this morning: President Emmerson Mnangagwa has fired back with both barrels amid growing factional warfare inside Zanu PF. A week after whispers of a dossier allegedly compiled by Vice President Constantino Chiwenga's allies began to ripple through the corridors of power like smoke before a political fire. Speaking in Harare yesterday, Mnangagwa delivered a fiery rebuke that was part sermon, part warning, declaring, "Shame, shame, shame on all those who are denigrating our national interests."
The People's Revolution, which our mass colossal party, Zanu PF, is championing, is like a flame whose light is sustained by following the correct line and our ideology, as well as discipline, patriotism, and loyalty to the party. In this spirit, as the conference rose into life, I call on us, the party Politburo, to continue to lead by example in uniting party and the nation towards the growth of our revolutionary movement and the prosperity of our motherland, Zimbabwe. Shame, shame, shame on all those who are denigrating our national interests and ongoing people-centered projects and programs. We are Zanu PF and will not be deterred. We reject the negative and the harmful characterization of our party in the country.
He didn't name names, but when a man starts preaching about loyalty during a civil war, you don't need a confession to know who this sermon is about. Analysts say the speech was Mnangagwa's coded response to the Chiwenga dossier, an explosive report said to detail abuse of state resources, shady appointments, and elite corruption that paints the president as more survivalist than statesman. The timing couldn't be worse. Zanu PF conference is in motion, but it has been split into two venues, one in Harare and the main one in Mutare. The economy is tanking and party unity is now held together with the political equivalent of chewing gum and fear. Insiders say the factions are hardening. Those in Mnangagwa's corner whispering about continuity and stability. Those in Chiwenga's camp talking reform and revenge. What was once a delicate balancing act between two liberation comrades now looks more like a ticking power keg waiting for a careless spark. As if that wasn't enough drama for one government, the Deputy Minister of Health, Sleman Kwidini, told Parliament that the country's once thriving pharmaceutical sector collapsed, not because of mismanagement, but because of Western sanctions. He said companies like Death Labs and CAPS were casualties of economic siege. It's the same speech Zimbabweans have heard for 20 years, only this time the irony is biblical. Just as Harare was blaming sanctions across the Atlantic, US lawmaker Brian Mast was proposing the repeal of ZIDERA. The same law our officials blame for every broken hospital bed. But only if Zimbabwe first compensates white former farmers displaced during the land reform. Imagine that, a government drowning in debt, struggling to pay its own workers, now being told to write a check for history because Washington reopens the taps. One step forward, two steps into irony. And you know the other ironies? Caps and dat labs sank because the government chose to buy their medications direct from India using their Ziganandas. Natfem is being supplied by a Chigananda today, not by dat labs and not by caps. In any country, the largest health provider is the government. And if the government is not your customer, say goodbye to business in that country. Meanwhile, in Mutare, the Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers has decided to play cheerleader, showering Mnangagwa with praise ahead of the Zanu PF conference. Denford Mtashu, the retailers' president, issued a glowing statement crediting the president for infrastructure projects, regional diplomacy, and economic stability. He even said the ZIG currency has inspired confidence, though most retailers would rather accept dollars, goats, or airtime. Still, Mutashu insists the business community stands firmly behind Mnangagwa, calling for peace and continuity. It's a bold statement in a country where even peace has become a privilege sold in installments. Across the border, tragedy struck when a cross-border bus traveling from Gqeberha to Harare crashed near Makado, Limpopo, killing at least 42 people. Rescue teams described the scene as horrific. Bodies scattered, survivors screaming, and in the wreckage, boxes of antiretroviral drugs and other prescription medicine. Authorities are now treating it as both a fatal crash and a smuggling investigation, as the ARVs had no documentation. Limpopo Premier Popi Ramatuva said the discovery turns this from an accident into a public health and criminal concern. Many victims were Zimbabweans heading home, a painful reminder of how migration, desperation, and corruption keep colliding on our highway of sorrow. Back home, corruption continues its small-scale hustle. The Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission has arrested Detective Constable Colin Moyo from Plumtree for demanding $1,000 bribe from a robbery suspect. The officer was caught in a sting operation while collecting the balance of his bribe in Bulawayo. It's a classic Zim plot twist. A cop caught robbing the suspect he arrested for robbery. The officer is expected to appear in court today, proving that in Zimbabwe, even crime has compensation. And just when you thought the absurdity peaked, the Zimbabwe Republic Police had to publicly deny reports that they confiscated condoms from mourners at the burial of national hero Mpandasekwa Msheri. The ZIDERA called the story false, blaming AI-generated propaganda designed to tarnish their reputation. Still, the image of officers searching handbags at Heroes Acre for Trojans is one that refuses to die quietly on social media. If you ever needed proof that satire writes itself in Zimbabwe, there it is. Meanwhile, in Harare's own reality show of Love and Lies, a man named Nobet Chifeya is trending for allegedly juggling 15 lovers while still married. Two of his partners, a police officer and a businesswoman, teamed up to expose him after realizing they were both funding his side projects. Nobet's defense: He thought his wife was dead. The plot thickens. Between Mnangagwa's dossiers and Nobet's double life, it's hard to tell who is better at managing chaos, the politicians or the players. Beyond our borders, the Indian Ocean island of Madagascar has just taken a full plunge into military rule. Colonel Michael Randrianirina announced on national radio that the army has taken power after President Rajoelina fled the country amid mass protests. Soldiers joined youth demonstrators waving anime flags. Yes, anime, proving coups now come with hashtags and Gen Z slogans. France called for constitutional order, but the Malagasy army said, "We are trending, let us cook." In Cameroon, 90-year-old President Paul Biya is once again seeking re-election, chasing his 8th term like a man collecting trophies for overstaying. Counting is still underway, but the smart money says he's already congratulated himself. Further south, Moody's has warned South Africa that unless it finds real growth, it won't regain investment grade status anytime soon. With low investment, high corruption, and Eskom acting like a part-time electricity provider, the only thing stable in South Africa now is the candle market. In the Middle East, the Gaza ceasefire is already in tatters after Israeli forces killed 5 Palestinians in Gaza City, accusing them of crossing the yellow line agreed in the truce. The incident highlights the fragility of peace, a word that seems allergic to both sides. In tech news, Meta has introduced PG-13 style filters for teens on Instagram, limiting what under 18s can see. The move follows lawsuits accusing Meta of harming minors. From now on, teen accounts will automatically be restricted, unless of course they lie about their age, which, let's be honest, everyone already does. Meanwhile, Venezuela has announced the closure of its embassy in Norway, just days after opposition leader Maria Corina Machado won the Nobel Peace Prize. Instead, Caracas plans to open new embassies in Zimbabwe and Burkina Faso. Because apparently nothing screams strategic diplomacy like bonding with countries that have more potholes than embassies. And in sports, Barcelona's Robert Lewandowski has been ruled out with a hamstring injury, putting his participation in El Clasico in doubt. At 37, the man's body is clearly telling him what many fans want. It might be time to chill. So, as Mnangagwa and Chiwenga wrestle for the crown and chaos dances from Harare to Antananarivo, one thing remains clear. In Zimbabwe, politics is the only sport where everyone is playing injured. Stay tuned. Stay sharp and don't forget to subscribe to Zimwaves TV, the only station that roasts the powerful, comforts the tired, and reports the truth even when it sounds like fiction.